today on Cryptological, we've got two different camps of people with Bitcoin at the moment. We got those who think that there's going to be a super cycle. Things are going to continue after a little lull, just like we have done in these different peaks that we've had over the cycle so far since the bottom, where we've come up and then cooled off and come up and cooled off, come up and cooled off. And there's some people that think we're going to go up again and put in a new all-time high. And there's other people who think the 4-year cycle is still intact and now we're just going to go into a year or so long bear market and carry on as we have done historically after every peak. There are good arguments for both, but I just want to have a look at the moment to see, after this recent little pump we've had of Bitcoin of about 16%, is this different? Is this normal? One way of doing this is just using simple moving averages. So let's start with the 8-week SMA. We can see we've actually gone above it with this last pump that we've had over the last week, since really started on January the 1st. And we have gone back above it. But if we look back onto the previous behaviour after the bull market peak, we can see that we have popped above it several times, in fact, during 2022, before that precipitous drop off into the painful bear market. And if we go back even further into the 2017 peak, we can see in 2018 we came back, tested the 8-week and then popped above it again a couple of times, 3 times, 4 times, before that precipitous drop off into what marked the bottom. So yeah, we're back above it now, but it seems to happen every single cycle. So I know nothing really to write home about there. 20-week, it's kind of the same as the bull market support band. So if we just have a look at that, the 20-week SMA and the 21-week EMA, we can still see we're a little way off that by about 6k or so. Looking back historically, after the peak of the previous bull markets, we can see we've come back up and tested it, rejected another drop, and then tested it at lower prices, got above it a little bit in 2022, and then big drop off into the bear market. 2017, again after the peak, we came up, got above it for a couple of times, dropped off, and then came back up and tested it, and then the drop off. So we're still below the bull market support band. We might expect to go back up and test it around prices 100k-ish. But historically, even if we get above it for a short period of time, there's a pretty strong rejection. 50 week. We're still a ways off that as well. 50 weeks up over 100k. We can see during the run up, it's kind of acted as support for us, bouncing off it a couple of times. Historically, see how much we were extended back in the 2021 bull market. We were way extended above the 50 week, whereas we were sort of coming back and checking in with it every few months during this last cycle. But again, after the drop off from the peak, came back, tested it, got above it, dropped below it, came back, tested it again, and then that was it until after the bottom. So there's a good chance we're going to get back up there and test it again. It kind of coincides a little bit with where the bull market support band is at the moment. So I expect pretty heavy resistance around that 100k mark if we do get up there anytime soon. Now, 100-week SMA is a little bit more interesting. At the moment, we're using it as support. We kind of used it as support. We bounced off it for this last rally. And if we go back and look at the previous bull market, 2022 bear market, we can see it didn't really register at all in the price action. We just sort of fell straight through it as if it wasn't there. And also in the 2017 bull market, 2018 bear market, again, we just fell straight through the 100-week SMA as if it didn't exist. And then even go back further, back into 2014, same thing. So at the moment, it's acting as support for us. And that kind of makes sense if you think about how we peaked. We didn't have a blow-off top peak. We sort of peaked on apathy. It kind of makes sense with the difference in the price action going up that we're going to see differences in the price action going down. 200 week is, we're still way off that. That's 57k right now. which seems like a million miles away. But going back to 2015, it has acted as the bottom. And then again in 2018, we're bouncing off it. And then 2022, we actually dropped below it for a few months. Got back above, and it kind of acted like the low after that. And we haven't gone down to test it, and it's really far away. But there's a chance we could test it again in the future, in the next year, if we do get the bear market that we're expecting, that half of us seem to be expecting. Because if you sort of plot this line, it's going to carry on going up throughout 2026. And if the price comes down to meet it, it'll be somewhere around the sort of 65 to 70k mark, likely. If the price drops, when it gets down there. So, and that would be in line with the sort of drops that we've had during the previous price action throughout Bitcoin's history. So at the moment, nothing really to write home about. I mean, this is all sort of behavior that we've seen before historically with Bitcoin, and we're probably going to see it again in the future. But at the moment, it's kind of just doing what you'd expect it to do after we've sort of peaked out for the cycle. So it remains to be seen if we're going to get the fabled super cycle finally, after people have been calling for it for the last 10 years, or if it's just going to do what it's done since its inception and follow the 4-year cycle rules. Anyway, if you want to get access to these charts, you can have a look on cryptological.app. That's all for today. Thanks for checking in. Bye.